Hey guys, it's Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Emergency Storage Shed. We are at episode 100. 100 weeks in a row of getting something out of this shed. And when I think it was Wayne suggested that I should get something out of this shed every day, that was almost 2 years ago. In fact, 4 more episodes. We're going to be at 2 years. And at that stage, I couldn't stand where I am now. There was only a little narrow track from the doorway into the other shed. And behind me was a solid wall of stuff. Now, it still is a solid wall of stuff, but at least we can move back a fair bit now. We've emptied some shelves. We've made use of some other shelves in our sorting, but I'm gradually trying to get this whole place empty so that I can use it as a functional workshop in conjunction with my main shed. So now someone mentioned, I forget who it was, sorry, but someone mentioned I should have some sort of plan, and I probably will do that. It's a great idea of how I'm going to lay out my workshop, and I'd certainly be interested in anyone's input. So we'll look at that at some stage over the next course of 100 episodes when we're emptying this. Got to get some more out of here today. For those that are new to the channel, and there's been a lot joined lately, so welcome. We do a lot of recycling here. We do a lot of repair work. I have a second-hand business, and I've been cleaning out people's sheds and houses for over 20 years. A lot of it got put in here in a hurry when I had to vacate my old shop. I've told that story many a times, and a lot of it I don't know what's in the boxes. It's stuff that's come out of other people's sheds. Sometimes I've thought that's a good piece, I'll keep that, or I've packed interesting stuff in a box and put it aside for a rainy day. Well, it's the proverbial rainy day, but we can't do it all at once because it's such a big job. So one item every week. We've been at it for 2 years now. Let's get something from behind me on that huge wall of boxes. Okay, I've been working away at the middle stack because there's been a fair bit of weight on there, and I'd like to get that off the TV at the bottom. So next one in the firing line is that top Australia Post box or crate. I don't know what's in it. It's shed stuff of some sort, I think, but there could be a real mixture. In fact, I can see a cuckoo clock there, so could be anything in this box. We'll take it through to the bench and we'll check it out. Okay, well, there's a bit of weight in this box, and of course when you have like 6 boxes and they're all fairly heavy, it equals a big heavy pile. I just remembered it was Emma who suggested I do some sort of plan scale drawing of the workshop and where I'm going to lay things out. I haven't honestly given it any thought, so it's a great idea, and I might do a bit of a measure up of the shed and do a scale plan at some stage, and we can all work out together how I should set it up. But we've got to go through this box first. This is the 100th item, or when I say item, 100 lot of stuff out of that shed consistently every week. I hope you've been enjoying the journey. I think I've had some great comments, and I know I'm actually getting somewhere, and something that I do suggest is a good way to tackle a big problem. And as Ian Matthews says in the UK, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, we've been taking lots of bites, and the elephant's disappearing. Let's have a look. This is pretty interesting. There is a cuckoo clock here. There's an old power supply. There's jars of hardware, all sorts of stuff. Okay, well, as it's getting late tonight, I might finish this in the morning, but yeah, we're going to have a bit of an interesting look through here. There's jars, lots of jars of hardware. Well, that's handy. I've got a lot of these coffee jars I used to put hardware in, and I'm not going to keep enough to supply the whole town with hardware. I'll just keep what I need. The rest of it I'll fill jars, send it to the shop, and I do sell lots of hardware through jars. Just assorted lots, screws, nuts, bolts, various other things. So yeah, we'll go through this in the morning and we'll see if we can get any value to sell out of here and any handy stuff for me to keep. And in the blink of an eye, it's the next morning, so I'm ready to get into this box and sort it out and see what we can organise to sell, I guess, mostly, and keep a couple of bits, possibly. Celastic, auto Celastic, translucent sealant, very handy in the workshop. It's probably an older one, but it's unopened. I don't know if they date these things. And silicone can go off, but the tube feels, we don't need it in the packet. I'm going to keep this one. The tube feels okay. Yeah, that's fine. So I do use that a lot in the workshop, just for general fix-it jobs. It is a clear one, so that could be handy for all sorts of things. So I'll hang on to that. Don't need the packet. With these packets, that part's cardboard. We can recycle that, and that part technically probably could be recycled somehow, but not through our curbside bin, so it has to go in the rubbish bin. Rightio, we have some PVC tubing here, and I do have a use for this. It's still flexible enough to be used. The PVC tubing can't be used for petrol or solvents, but it's fine with water. And I do have to rig up something to clean out Coco's water trough, and I'm looking for a little pump, and that will be handy as a suction tube, I think. So I'll have a use for that shortly. Now, I moved this out of the road yesterday, and I don't know what it is. It's something wrapped up in like Glad wrap, plastic of some sort. And I can't really make it out from what I'm reading there. It gives it tensile strength. It looks like it's something rolled up. So let's open this. I don't know if I'm going to have a use for it or whether I'll sell it. It's clearly brand new. Test description. Lots of statistics on its various specifications. But what is it? Cork sheeting? Ah, it's gasket material. Brand new, a big roll of gasket material. So it's a cork, but it's obviously more than cork. Here we go. Description: high cork content material bonded by a nitrile. I can't read this morning. I need another coffee. So it's an elastic style gasket material, has high compressibility and moderate resistance to most oils. Applications, here we go. Rocker cover gaskets, sump gaskets, transmission oil pan gaskets. That will certainly be handy. Many of you will know, I've mentioned it a few times, that I was a small engine mechanic in a previous life, and I do plan on doing some engine restorations, so good quality gasket material will certainly find a place in my shed. It will be useful, no doubt. Now, I did mention it a lot in my last unboxing video about here I am trying to reduce clutter and be really tough with what I keep. But workshop consumables are, by their very nature, consumable, and you need more of them. That was for the silicon. So that will be certainly handy for jobs down the track. Right, let's get into some of these jars. And we also have a transformer here and the Cuckoo clock and a few odds and ends there. This is just some basic wood screws. I've got plenty of these. What I like to do with these is just, I don't sort them into specific lengths and diameters, and if they're just that type of screw, I'll put them all in a jar as an assortment, and I'll sell them in the shop for $5 the whole lot. And it's amazing how many people love to buy an assortment of various things. Here we have some wall plugs. I've got plenty here, so again, they can just go to the shop, and as I find the odd one when I'm sorting boxes, I just keep topping them up. All different sizes, it doesn't matter. Assortments are actually quite handy, so they'll go to the shop. These ones, you don't see these used very often anymore. They're, I'm not sure what their proper name is, but they're for joining timbers, and they were used, you just hammer them in across a join. They're a corrugated, I'm not sure what you'd call them. I might have to look it up so I can label the jar. They used to use them a lot on hardwood frames of furniture. I don't suppose they probably work very well on craftwood or chipboard, but the old hardwood they used to use it on. They will be useful for someone. I don't think I need to keep these here. I can't imagine myself using these. Although perhaps if I'm restoring furniture, I might just keep a few. I certainly don't need a jar full, so we'll distribute those as we get to the end of this video. Alright, let's get stuff off the top. The Cuckoo clock is in pieces. The little birdie is still there, but the door's gone. The front panel's disconnected from the actual clock. The clock movement is there, but it's quite rusty. It has a chain here. These have two chains, which have weights hanging on the end. I don't think I have the weights. And they also have a pendulum. So you'd have 4 chains coming out the bottom. We've only got one here, although I guess it's probably pulled right through. And then you'd pull each weight up to the top, and these are a weight-driven clock, so you don't wind them with a key. The gravity of the weight pulling on the chain drives the clock. So one chain will do the clock movement, and one chain will do the actual cuckoo. So the bellows are there, but it's not in very good condition. In fact, that's completely broken. I don't know what's missing from there. Back cover's gone, no pendulum, no weights, only one chain. This will just be a parts clock, so I won't try and get this going unless I find the whole box of parts. Oh, hang on, here we go. What's that? That looks like the door from one of the bellows. Oh, I think that worked on top. Not sure. So it's all broken up, just parts. I will keep it in a box here as Cuckoo clock parts because I do restore a lot of clocks, and I certainly hope to do a lot more in the future. So just for parts, that one. This tub here, we have an angled bracket. We have some... Oh, that's off the back of a TV. That's the braided... It will be copper. It'll be nickel-plated copper. And it was a braided wire that goes around. It's like an earthing strap around the CRT picture tube. The spring I'll take off, and the rest of it will probably just go in copper. Number 2 copper. A brass air fitting. Well, I'll hang on to that because I have to do some air lines around the workshop when I finally get it empty. These are little hubcaps off like pedal cars. I think there's 4 of those. They're just a hammer-on thing, and they're very hard to get off because they just flex the metal when you hammer them on. But these are still intact and good enough to reuse. They're a bit rusty, but I'll hang on to those for now. We have some finials off something. I have a whole box of assorted little brass decorative and die-cast decorative finials. Some of them sometimes go on clocks and all sorts of things. I'll keep those here. And just a few random screws. What's that? Just a broken bit of plastic. I'm not even sure what that is. A copper rivet and some more screws. Now these screws can go straight into that other jar we had before. So just random hardware bits. Now this power supply, I made this when I was, I reckon, a late teenage years, probably 17 or so, before I went off to college. I did quite a lot of, when I was living on the farm, in a little workshop I had set up for electronics. And I made this little power supply. Not really accurate as far as the dialing goes, but you could dial up 12 volts. I probably should have put a meter on it. It was probably out of a magazine, just a little kit. So yeah, what am I going to do with it? Well, I don't think it's really worth a lot to sell. I might use it here. I don't remember what current it can deliver, so I might have to check that out and see. It's not current limited, and don't know that it even has a fuse in it. Maybe it does inside. So it's probably not ideal for testing, because if we have a short, it's going to blow something. I'll check that one out. I think I'd like to hang on to it here just purely because it was mine. Well, it still is, but I made it. I'll do some testing on it, see if it still works. We may salvage it for parts and reuse the case for something else. I'll work that one out later, but I don't feel I need to sell that just yet. And I don't think it would have much of a market. Rightio, hardware in jars, that's just normal nuts and bolts. So we might just sort that a little bit. I tend to sort my jar hardware into small screws and larger nuts and bolts. I used to separate self-tappers, but I kind of throw them all in with small screws now and washers. So maybe we could just top that one up. I like to get about 1 kilo in a jar, and for 1 kilo of hardware I can get $5. And it doesn't really matter what the hardware is, unless it's brass or stainless steel or something. They're little self-tapping tech screws. We have, yeah, just more. Okay, so these appear to be just all general hardware. There's some connector blocks. I do sell those as well. I've got a jar here for a lot of this, so I can probably empty these into jars I've already got going, and it'll free up some spare jars for me. General hardware in that one. And I used to keep this as I scrap things out, and I still do. They look like Phillips head self-drilling metal screws. Hardly anything in there. I think they're actually draw knob screws. And we have some little cable clamps in that one. That could probably sell as $5 just as it is. Old wood screws. I have a jar for those here as well, so we'll distribute those. Keys. Well, I have a lot of keys at the shop. Some of them I keep for various cupboards and old door locks. Some of them, the brass keys, I put in a jar for brass keys, and I sell them as just assorted keys for craft work or whatever, but I make sure I get better than scrap brass price for them. That one is probably just a little cupboard key. We use some of those at the shop. Occasionally customers come in and want one. I just say $2. So I do sell them. That's a door lock key. Not sure. That's one of those old metal locker keys, I think. So I just sort them into various styles. Old car keys I tend to sell, but I keep them. I put them on little loops and sell them as a bunch of car keys. And if they're all Ford keys, I'll sell to a Ford collector. Much better than scrap. So we'll sort those out. Also, old Lockwood keys. If any of them are branded Lockwood, I keep separate because I have had great success selling old Lockwood keys on eBay. There's one there that says Lockwood Australia. So that sort of stuff has a much better value than just shred steel. Certainly you could throw it in the brass, but I can get better value again at the shop. So I'll sort those out at the shop. I don't think there's anything outstanding in there that we need to pull out today. I'll do an approximate value for this stuff when we get to the notepad at the end. Some wing nuts. I do keep wing nuts to just sell per jar lot. Some of them will be brass. Most of those look like they're just steel ones. Micro switches. You get a lot of these out of microwaves if you're scrapping microwaves. But they do sell. I've had them in a small jar, not this big, at $5. And I've sold a few lots of them just to people that are either inventors or need a couple for projects or repairing microwaves or whatever. More wood screws there. Springs always sell very well. And stoppers off the thing, the feet stoppers, you know, some of them are rubber, some are plastic, with the screws in some of them. So again, I use a lot of those for various things, or I can sell them. People are always after these when they're making projects or something. Not a lot of value, but we'll have a jar full of assorted ones for $5. It's amazing what people buy. This one's old doorknobs, and they're quite old ones. These are, I don't think they're glass, I think they're porcelain. Nice green ones with original metal hardware. They will certainly have a good market. We might sort them into lots of 6 or 8 or something, even 4, and I think they will sell quite well. So it's good value in that jar. And the only other jar in here is just some cable clamps. What do you call them? Cable clips, assorted sizes, and again I sell those as well. So there we go. That's all that's in this box. Really just a lot of hardware and a few interesting things on top. I'll sort it all out and I'll see if I can come up with some figures for a notepad to give you a realistic idea of what I could sell it for. Okay, back. It didn't take long, and I've cleaned up the jars because they were quite dusty on top. I've sorted. Most of them were pretty good. I did tip some out and just go through and pull out. Well, there was one brass wood screw. I keep them separately because I get a lot more for those. There's not enough of those connector blocks to really value a copper rivet. There's some of these wing nuts were brass, so I'll keep them separate as well. There's our number 2 copper, and the little crimps are brass. They can just go in the brass bin. These knobs are quite nice ones. There's 17 in all, so I think they're a little bit knocked around, but I think they'd suit vintage cupboards and things. I don't think I need to keep them. I'll put them back in the jar, and I think I'll just maybe ask $10 the lot, and that way people can, you know, buy the lot, have a few spares for their projects, or use it for a couple of projects. The other thing I could do is put, and I do this sometimes, I could put on the jar $1 each or $10 a lot. So if someone happens to come along and just wants 4 of them, they can pay $4 instead of 10, and they can just pull out the best 4, and then I'll adjust the price accordingly. But I sometimes do that, and it seems to work quite well. With the feet, I call them stoppers. They're not really stoppers. They're feet off various appliances. And when I scrap out things, if the feet are in good condition, I do tend to keep them. And what I'm going to do is bag them up with their screws. Some of them don't have screws. And I save these bags. Anytime I'm scrapping something or opening a box of something and it had cables or bits and pieces in bags, I always keep these little Ziploc bags because they're handy to reuse. Doesn't cost me anything to do something like this then. And I can put these in a box in the shop and just have, you know, appliance feet or project feet, $1 per pack. And if we do that and we sell all these, well, there's $5. So I'm not sure how we're going to go. A little bit of an experiment there, but I think it's worthwhile. I did something similar a while back, and I'm honestly not sure where the box is. It's in the shop somewhere, and I don't remember selling any, but I might have made them $2 each. I think I'll just do $1 each. Some little bits and pieces. These were in with the feet, but they're just like rubber grommets, and I'm not even sure what these are, but they're soft rubber. I'll just hang on to those here in a box of assorted rubber bits because, you know, sometimes you're looking for something like that. I mentioned these little caps. I'll hang on to those. Same with the finials. There was one little plastic foot, and that's off a 1960s wireframe something. They turn up quite often, and sometimes they're missing a foot. So I'll hang on to that as well. Angle bracket, as I mentioned, that can go in my box of sundry brackets at the shed. So not keeping very much. Most of this I'll sell. I'll work out a price, approximate price for the notepad shortly on all of these. Like I get $10, sorry, I get $5 per kilo for jars of random hardware, and I've accumulated, or I've consolidated some of them. Some were self-tappers, and I've put other screws in with them. They're the wing nuts. That was only about 200 grams, so say a fifth of a kilo, say $1. So I'll approximate, and that was I think a bit over half a kilo, so we'll say $3. So I'll approximate that, and it's going to be pretty accurate for what I get for this stuff, and certainly much, much better value than getting, you know, like 20 cents a kilo for shred steel if you throw them in with your shred. So I consolidated the wood screws. There were shorter ones and long ones, put them together. I will get $5 for that lot of cable clips, and I'll get $5 for that lot of clamps. And the springs, I don't go on a kilo weight. I just basically, when the jar's near full, I'll put $5 on it. They always sell well. I always run out of springs. And same with the micro switches. I might do $1 each or $5 the lot. I might add a few more to that. And I'll probably put these in a smaller jar, but I don't think I'd get $5 for them. They're very cheap to buy, so I don't know, I might just leave that build up until the jar is full, and then even $3 or something. So that's what I do with the hardware. I go through a lot of jars, but I kind of save them. I didn't drink all this coffee. I'm not sure where these jars turned up from, but it's amazing when we clean out a deceased estate how many boxes of jars you find in the shed, and I can certainly vouch that Mum used to save a lot of jars. And occasionally the op shop down here have them for free, and people make jam in some of them, but I don't think the coffee jars are any good for jam. So they're great for me to market various hardware in through the shop. The only thing we don't want to happen really is someone to buy a jar full of screws and drop them on the concrete footpath, because actually wouldn't be too bad with a magnet, but if it was a jar of brass screws, you'd be there for a while picking them up. So some of the bigger jars I now have spare. I will no doubt fill those with various things to go to the shop. So there we go, sorted out. We might just test this old power supply and see if it still works, and then we'll get to the notepad. So now it's time to give this old power supply a test. I've got it plugged into my appliance tester. We shall power it up, and we've got that set to DC 20 volts. The dial looks like it's pointing close to 12. Let's make sure we've got an earth for a start. And the appliance tester says that's a pass, so good. I must have earthed it properly. So let's turn it on and watch the meter, see if it works. Nothing. Doesn't work. Maybe it's blown a fuse. Okay. It probably hasn't survived the passage of time too well. It does look a little corroded there. The transformer's resting hard across the, or under the case lid there. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with it. I think I might just use it for parts. Perhaps we can have an investigate on video one day and see if we can fix it, but it's not really much point because it's not something I'd use. I've got a good benchtop power supply, which gives me voltage and current and everything, whereas I've only got a approximation dial here. But we have no power coming out of it. So clearly either there's a fuse inside that's blown or something's gone wrong with it. I might take the lid off. If I think it's interesting, we'll do a video on it. But otherwise, I'll probably just use it for parts. Handy project box, and the transformer might be okay, or maybe that's blown. But we've certainly got nothing coming out of it now. And now it's time to visit the notepad, and you can see our nice, neat array of jars. I find it extremely satisfying sorting out hardware. I don't know why. It's just something I enjoy doing, going through random boxes of shed stuff, and I think even as a young bloke in Dad's workshop on the farm, when I had time, I used to try and get some order into it, but as you saw with the cleanup, we never really succeeded. Okay, notepad time. Not a lot of value. 10 for the knobs. I reckon I should be able to get that for those green porcelain ones. The couple of jars that were full enough to put $5 on, and then the rest of it, the project feet, I think I'll be able to get that for them over time. And an approximation on all the partially filled jars. I went for $5 on the keys. I know some of them I do quite well, and if I get $2 per cupboard key, well, there's a few of those in there. So $44 there. If we do scrap out this power supply, there's a couple of dollars for the cord. If nothing else, the transformer can go in the scrap if it's not working. So, and even if the thing does go and I decide to sell it, maybe it's just blown a fuse because someone shorted it and it's okay, I'd probably get $10 for it. So there's some value there. I decided I really don't need to keep it just for the sake of keeping something I made. But I will have a look at it at some stage. A few little extras, of course, to go in our other jars. And I will top up some of these, or at least use these to top up other ones. But for the purposes of getting a value out of this box lot, that's what we've done here. $44? Yeah, we could probably nearly stretch it to $50, particularly if we can sell the transformer. Not really that bad out of a box of nothing. And I've got a few bits and pieces to keep for myself. The gas fitting, a few other bits and pieces that I will use in the workshop. The gasket stuff, which will be very handy down the track, I'm sure. And even the cuckoo clock for parts. And a tube of brand new silicon, Celastic as they call it. So there's some value there. Pleased to get another box out of the emergency storage shed and get some more hardware stock in the shop, which is great because we don't have a hardware shop in town at the moment. So it's nice that I can at least provide some options for people that need a nut or a bolt or a screw to fix something. So that brings us to the end of another unboxing from the emergency storage shed. If you are new here and you've made it right through to the end, congratulations. This was a fairly boring one. I mean, sometimes I think they're boring and they do really well as far as the video goes. I think a lot of people like knowing what to do with low-value junky stuff. So, that's what I do. I'm not going to shirk any boxes. We have to sort it all out. But if you are new here, sometimes we find some amazing stuff in the boxes. And I have got another series going on how to sell online, which specifically will cover any stuff I put on eBay. And sometimes we find something particularly rare in a box, throw it onto eBay, you get to watch the auction finish. So that's another series I'm running as well as an e-waste series that seems to be quite popular at the moment. And maybe that's how you found our channel. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for coming along on this journey. I didn't add the total to our grand total, but we're just over $16,000 out of that emergency storage shed. And for those that are new, again, we're not even halfway. So maybe another couple of years, who knows what treasures lie just out of reach of us at the moment. Catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.